You're listening to the WrestleHavoc Podcast on YouTube, where we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. We talk all that goes on in the realm of WWE and AEW every week. And now, here's your host, the one that will give you a reality check on pro wrestling, Flamin' Ricky DeReyes. This is the WrestleHavoc Podcast.
At a time where AEW just had their biggest show, not only of the year, but of all time, 81,000 people paid inside Wembley Stadium. Of course, I'm talking about All In. We got a shit ton of stories about the whole CM Punk and Jungle Boy Jack Perry altercation that completely overshadowed the show. I should say. Almost a year ago to the day where Brawl Out happened, and we had the illustrious return of Mr. Maxwell Jacob Friedman after his crazy-ass pipe bomb at the Kia Forum. He made his return, and CM Punk went off, and Brawl Out took place. I'm not going to sit here and say that the Jack Perry and CM Punk situation is worse than Brawl Out, because Brawl Out was probably the darkest day in the history of the company. But at a time where you are celebrating you having your biggest show of all time, you got shit that overshadows it, and it's shit that is not good whatsoever, and it's clearly overshadowed by drama. But I'm not here to talk about CM Punk and Jack Perry. I'm going to save that for tomorrow's video, or for if you guys are already watching the day this is already uploaded, probably it will be uploaded tonight. But I will save all my thoughts on that on episode 26 of the WrestleHavoc Podcast, because I got a shit ton to say about the whole suspension between, of course, Jack Perry and CM Punk. This shit got escalated so fucking badly. It is insane. And we're probably thinking or talking about CM Punk possibly not showing up at All Out. But speaking of All Out, of course, All In was this past Sunday. Did you guys know that there is a pay-per-view this Sunday? Heck, there's a pay-per-view this Saturday. We got Shitback, or Payback, my bad. I'm not really that excited about Payback. The card is meh. I'm excited about Seth Rollins versus Shinsuke Nakamura. I thought the build-up for that match has been phenomenal. I love how they're showcasing Shinsuke Nakamura. But we're not here to talk about Payback. We're here to talk about All Out. All Out is this Sunday. Did you guys even realize that All Out was this Sunday? I'll tell you one thing. The build for All Out has been dog shit. And it boils down to one reason and one reason alone. And it's that the fucking pay-per-view takes place a week after All In. That's all I got to say about that. The pay-per-view, All Out, takes place a week after All In. Tony Khan even went on record and stated that this is a tradition that he wants to do every year. He wants to have All Out take place a week after All In every year because it's a tradition in the Chicago area, but it's also a tradition for All In at the London area. Honestly, I think that's a bad idea. Because you're asking your audience. Now, if this was all on a streaming service, kind of like what WWE has with Peacock, I would just be complaining about the build, that's it. But I wouldn't really necessarily have a problem if it was on a streaming service to watch or actually care about All Out. But the biggest problem with All Out is the fact that you have to pay $50 fucking for this card, for this pay-per-view. And from what the card looks like, yeah, there are some bangers over there. We got Kenny Omega versus Konosuke Takeshita, which is probably going to be the main event. We got Adam Cole and MJF defending their Ring of Honor tag team titles. You know, whoever is the winner of this Friday's Battle Royal on Rampage. We got a tag team match with Eddie Kingston and Katsuyori Shibata taking on the Blackpool Combat Club, Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta, which is all right. But if you really think about it, I would have much rather preferred to have a one-on-one match between Eddie Kingston and Claudio Castagnoli. It would just make way more sense. We got Darby Allin taking on Luchasaurus. That match has been announced for months at this point. Powerhouse Hobbs versus Miro. We got FTR and the Young Bucks teaming up to take on Bullet Club Gold. That's not bad. Samoa Joe takes on Shane Taylor, and I guarantee you the core AEW audience does not even know who the fuck Shane Taylor is. You got to watch Ring of Honor to know who Shane Taylor is. Yes, they did air a video package, but of all things, that is the most random fucking match on any pay-per-view card, to be quite honest with you. You got Chris Statlander versus Ruby Soho. And that is, you also got Jon Moxley versus Orange Cassidy. It's not a bad card, but is that card worth $50? That is the question that we all need to ask ourselves. Is the card that I just flat out ran through, is that card, to you, the consumer, worth $50? Not to mention, you already paid $50 a week prior for a show that is worth $50. If not, I could even argue All In could be worth more. It could be worth more than $50 depending on the spectacle of the show. The show was fucking phenomenal. But for this, for All Out, I'm sorry, it is not worth $50. It is basically, if you think about it, a stacked special pay-per-view episode of Dynamite. That is what All In looks like. Or All Out. Jesus Christ, I get these two names completely confusing. But that is exactly what All Out is. All Out is basically a Dynamite, with all due respect. I think the show's going to be great. But am I excited about the show? Fuck no. Mainly because of the fact that I had to pay $50 fucking dollars again. I spent $100 in a span of a whole week. I think that's a little bit too much money, and you're asking too much from the people that not only watch your show, but also pay for their pay-per-views. That's not the right way to go. Hopefully, AEW learns their lesson, and next year, they either have a bundle, put it on a streaming service, which I know it takes time, because I believe the reason why All In was not on a streaming service is because the infrastructure with HBO Max is just not there yet for any live sporting event to put on. But I would rather either have this on a streaming service, push All Out all the way down to at least the end of September, or just completely abandon All Out and just completely just discontinue All Out and just replace it with All In. Because clearly All In is your biggest show of the year. Why the fuck do you still want to have All Out? You know, just have All In. All In is your big show. You shouldn't have All In. Not to mention, we also got another pay-per-view in October called WrestleDream. They're adding more pay-per-views to their arsenal. Now we got Revolution, Double or Nothing, Forbidden Door, All In, All Out, WrestleDream, and Full Gear. Those are 7 pay-per-views, ladies and gentlemen. And you got to pay $50 for all of those pay-per-views. And for the $50 that you're paying this Sunday, this card that you see right here, even though they're going to be great matches, let's be honest, these matches are going to probably knock it out of the park. Again, are they worth the $50? The answer is simple. No, it's not worth the $50. And that is my biggest problem right over there. You've been spending these past few months, I don't even want to say spending these past few months, because really the only store that you've really been building was Adam Cole and MJF. And maybe the other stores that you've been doing. I completely forgot. I'm not even at the right headspace right now. But the build for All In was kind of lackluster if you think about it. But it was still All In. It was still All In, and you knew it was going to be a big show regardless. If you hated AEW, you were still going to watch All In. But they completely ignored All Out during that time in that build. In my opinion, at least. They completely ignored All Out. And that was a big, big, big concern. My biggest question is how are you gonna? How are those pay-per-view buys are gonna reflect? Like how are those pay-per-view buys gonna be for All Out? Like I'm literally mumbling right now because I have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about. But seriously, you know, I'm at the moment right now because this genuinely pisses me off. The card is lackluster. The card for All Out is lackluster. Am I excited for All Out? I'm going to be brutally honest. No, I'm not. I'm not excited for All Out. Because again, AEW hasn't done its job. It hasn't fulfilled me in getting excited about All Out. That's just the nature of the beast. Am I excited for Payback? No, I'm not excited for Payback. I hope those two pay-per-views knock it out of the park, but honestly, I'm not really looking forward to this weekend. I'm really not, to be quite honest with you. I'm just not. But yeah, this is your AEW Dynamite review from August 20th, 2023. The last time I have reviewed a Dynamite was like 3 weeks ago. And that was because I was on vacation. I was planning on doing a shit ton of reviews while I was on vacation, but number one, the time difference is a pain in the fucking ass to watch those shows live. And number two, you're literally on the road almost every fucking day and you have no time whatsoever to watch these videos. And when you do have free time, all you want to do is just sleep because you are that fucking tired. Oh, and also the jet lag was absolutely insane. But thankfully, I'm finally back. I've been back ever since Friday. But, yeah. Overall thoughts on this episode of Dynamite. This is the fallout from All In, and this is the go home to All Out. I thought this was a great episode of Dynamite. I enjoyed Dynamite for what it was, especially the first hour. The first hour was definitely pretty cool. The second hour kind of died down a little bit, but the main event between Orange Cassidy and Penta El Zero was phenomenal. But again, All Out, I'm just not excited about. Really not excited about. And honestly, if you really think about it, it was kind of a shitty day for AEW because, again, everything All In was overshadowed by all of the CM Punk and Jack Perry because we got a shit ton of stories coming out these past couple of days ever since All In. And quite frankly, it's driving me fucking crazy. I literally do not want to go to Twitter at all. But I'm going to save the entire rant regarding CM Punk and Jack Perry for episode 26 because something really needs to be said. This shit needs to stop, and we really need to stop having big moments get overshadowed by dumbass drama that doesn't even need that just doesn't need to happen at all. Because let's be honest with ourselves, this whole CM Punk and Jack Perry situation is all over fucking glass. Just like Brawl Out last year, it was all over fucking Colt Cabana, a guy that matters, that literally adds nothing of importance to AEW whatsoever. I'm just telling it as it is. Same fucking shit. And yes, it is Jack Perry's fault. But from the stories that we've heard, it's also CM Punk's fault. CM Punk is the type of guy that is right in a situation, but he does something stupid in which he thinks he is right, but he immediately just turns in the wrong from the actions of what he does. From what he does to really handle the situation, he does not know how to handle a situation, thus making him in the wrong. But I'm going to save all that for episode 26. Be on the lookout for that video because I got a lot to say on that. But before I get on with all this craziness regarding AEW Dynamite, please make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc Podcast right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the freaking referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Of course, if you guys had missed it, the AEW All In at Wembley Stadium review is up on the channel. I talk about the biggest event in wrestling history, and AEW this past Sunday had their answer, and this is the key word here, their answer to WrestleMania. I'm not saying they're trying to be WrestleMania. I said their answer to WrestleMania. They finally found their big show, and their big show was All In. It was a phenomenal show. Of course, we had an amazing main event between Adam Cole and MJF. Story at its finest. We had CM Punk and Samoa Joe. We had FTR versus the Young Bucks. We had a shit ton of matches on this show, but really more importantly, the spectacle of this show was what really made All In so special. And it was so successful that they're immediately going to come back next year at Wembley Stadium. So be on the lookout for that. So if you guys haven't checked out the All In review, the link will be in the description below. Let's talk about All Out, or All Out, no. Let's talk about AEW Dynamite. AEW Dynamite kicked off with Mr. Jon Moxley of the Blackpool Combat Club coming off, of course, Wembley Stadium, where he had skewers literally placed on the top of his head. Yes, Jon Moxley, as I've always stated, is one sick son of a bitch. We kick off Dynamite with Jon Moxley taking on Komander. When it comes to Komander, I think Komander is very talented. But one thing that I just do not like, and I know it's his shtick, but like constantly in his matches, he would always walk the ropes like 24/7 in his matches. And sometimes it'd get very repetitive to the point where I just think it's fucking annoying that he walks the ropes, because many times when he walks the ropes, he ends up botching the move or just like not being successful at it, or just looks a little bit sloppy. But this match was different. And this is coming out of respect to Komander. I think he's very talented. I just think a lot of the stuff that he does is just very fucking repetitive. This match was actually very different. Komander actually tried to do a lot of different things. He actually brought the fight into Jon Moxley. And the only time he did the walking rope spot was like literally near the end. But really, a lot of the stuff that Komander did, was really kind of brawl with Jon Moxley. And that's what I really liked about this opening match. Let's go through the match real quick. Jon Moxley immediately goes for a boot. Moxley goes for a chop, but then Mox counters into a series of chops. He drives his boot on Komander, but then Mox continues to be in control. He sends Komander into the corner, but then Komander fights back with the kick. Then we get a Hurricane Rana by Komander, taking Moxley to the outside, but then Komander goes to the top. Komander then ends up going for a crossbody on the outside. Komander and Moxley are on the top, but then Moxley scratches the back of Komander. But Komander ends up headbutting Moxley down. But then Komander is still on the top. He tries to go for the tornado, but he ends up missing it. And then Moxley drives him down to the mat. Once we're back from commercial break, Moxley is in control over Komander. Moxley then sets up a pile driver attempt, but then Komander fights back. He ends up picking up Komander, but then Komander counters with a facebuster. We get a right hand by Moxley. Komander goes for a right. Then we get a series of right elbows by Komander, but then we get repeated clotheslines by Komander. Moxley ends up hitting a palm strike. After that, Komander runs the ropes and leaps down, taking Moxley down. But, of course, later on, Moxley gets the knees up. Komander misses a kick, but then Komander ends up going for the roundhouse. It was at the original kick that he tried to do that he ended up missing was actually a roundhouse, but then he fired back with another roundhouse, and that was actually successful. He ends up hitting a drop kick and then goes for the DDT. Komander picks up Moxley, and then he drives him down on his knees, but what happens is we get a cover by Komander. He goes to the top, walks the rope, ends up hitting the 450. And then this was the spot. So I said earlier when he walked to the ropes, Moxley got the knees up. This was the actual spot that Moxley actually got the knees up. He walked to the ropes, and Komander ended up hitting a 450. And that's where Mox got the knees up. Moxley then hits a lariat, and then he goes for the pile driver. Moxley goes for the cover and a kick out. Moxley then drives his elbows on Komander, but then he applies the rear naked choke. Moxley then transitions into the Juji Gatami, and Komander ends up tapping out, and Jon Moxley wins the match. Overall, great opening match. Again, Komander tried to do something different in this match. This wasn't like Komander literally in the beginning of the match just walking the ropes or attempting to walk the rope multiple times. He only did that like once or twice in this match, and that was it. Really, throughout the majority of this whole match, Komander was just really bringing the fight to Jon Moxley, and that's what I really enjoyed. Great match. Moxley gets the win as usual. We get a video package of Mr. Freshly Squeezed Orange Cassidy. Talks about how he doesn't know how many title defenses that he's had, but he won't stop. He will keep defending his title, and he isn't taking a break even after the biggest match of his career. Of course, he's talking about this past Sunday at All Out. Says he isn't the same Orange Cassidy from 4 years ago, and he will show Jon Moxley why at All Out. Of course, that is if he beats Penta El Cerro tonight. Meanwhile, we got a video package of the Young Bucks after their match at All In the locker room. Jesus Christ, the Young Bucks in the locker room. Wow, that doesn't seem to be new. They're pissed that they lost to FTR, but then FTR come in the locker room and they finally offer once again a handshake. But then Bullet Club Gold come in. Jay White says that this is the winner's room and says that the Elite isn't doing so well. But then Cash Wheeler challenges Bullet Club Gold with them teaming with the Bucks. So we're now going to be getting FTR and the Young Bucks teaming up, which is hilarious to think, considering who FTR is friends with and clearly who Punk is against. They're going to be teaming up together, and they're going to be taking on Bullet Club Gold at All Out. We also got a video package of Saraya winning the Women's Championship, and we get a backstage interview with Miss Toni Storm. She's very upset, but, she's happy for Saraya. But she went off script. She forgot her part at All In. Now she's with no friends, no titles, no nothing. She can't trust anyone anymore. And Paul Turner should be sacked. Wembley went tits up. She doesn't know what's going on, and she can't trust these bloody shoes, walks away, and then she throws the shoes at Renee. I love this new Marilyn Monroe character that Toni Storm is playing. I think it's very entertaining, and I feel like this fits Toni Storm so fucking well. You can tell she loves what she's doing. She is just so entertaining when it comes to this new character, and the whole thing about throwing the shoe at the interviewer, that's fucking hilarious. Hopefully Toni Storm can keep this going up. Toni Storm's just going absolutely crazy at this point. We get a Chris Jericho segment. Yes, Chris Jericho segment after, of course, losing to Will Ospreay at All In. We got a standing ovation by Mr. Chris Jericho. And he says, we should be happy after only a few days ago we enjoyed the spectacle that was AEW All In at Wembley Stadium. One of the greatest weekends of his career. Fozzy had their biggest headlining show, and on Sunday we had the biggest wrestling show in history, 81,000 tickets sold, and that is a shoot. Having a match against Will Ospreay was one of his favorites, and something that he will not forget, and that is how he treated his, or something that he would like to, or something that he won't forget. But there's something that he would like to forget, and it's how he treated his brother, Sammy Guevara. So he calls out Sammy Guevara. Sammy Guevara comes out. Jericho says he isn't happy now. He was frustrated, and of course, after losing to Will Ospreay, he should have never taken it out on him. He's been his brother since the beginning. He was frustrated, and he saw what he did after the match. Or he saw what he did with the bat during the match. Of course, during the match against Will Ospreay, Sammy Guevara, I believe Jericho had the walls, and then without the referee looking, Sammy Guevara hit Will Ospreay with Floyd. After that, talks about how he wants to apologize for not thinking the way he should have been thinking, and he ends up apologizing. He then offers a handshake to Sammy Guevara. Both men end up shaking hands. Sammy says he always had his back, and of course, a little push won't break us up. Jericho says he feels so much better now. He keeps replaying that match over and over and over again, and he thinks about what he could have done to beat Will Ospreay. And he talks about maybe how he should have rolled him down, maybe he could have hit him harder with the baseball bat, and that was the funniest part. He says, maybe I should have rolled him up quicker, maybe I should have got at him quicker, but maybe Sammy could have, hit him with the baseball bat a little bit harder. And then Sammy's like, whoa. Can you say that one more time? And, of course, Jericho was trying to avoid the question. But maybe if he hit him harder, then, I probably would have won the match. And then Sammy's like, maybe if you had hit him harder with the Judas effect, you would have won. And Jericho says, sometimes, just envision it. How did Jericho envision it? Didn't you envision leaving your pregnant wife flying to London to have my back? And then Jericho replied, flying to London to go to the biggest show. Sammy questions if he could have wrestled on the show. Jericho then maybe says, maybe if you followed my advice, maybe you'll wrestle at Wembley, maybe next year. Sammy then says, hell, I'll take that advice and learn not how to lose. Maybe if you follow his advice, that being Jericho, now Jericho's replying, maybe if you follow my advice and not lose your next title match to MJF. And then Sammy Guevara says, it's funny. 4 years ago, he became AEW champion right here in Chicago. Jericho's like, yes, this very building. And then Sammy Guevara's like, and then what happened? 24 hours later, he lost that title outside of a steakhouse. That being Longhorn Steakhouse, which is very good, by the way. You guys should all go to Longhorn Steakhouse. They got one of the best steaks ever. Trust me, I love steak. I fucking love steak. Moving on. He lost that title at a steakhouse. I remember that vividly. It was hilarious. That's some champion right there, Mr. Ocho. And then both men face off. You could tell the tension's like arising at this point. Jericho asks him to hold on. This is getting out of control. This is you and me. Jericho and Guevara, we've been together since day one, since the very first episode of AEW Dynamite when the Inner Circle first formed. Let's go back to what we do best, to being together. Having our backs. Let's reunite. Let's sex gods. I said let's sex gods. Let's sex gods and go after what we've earned. A chance to become the AEW World Tag Team Champions. Next week, let's start that road. On our way to becoming Tag Team Champions. Next week, let's start that road, and both men shake hands. Overall thoughts on this whole segment, I thought this was a pretty phenomenal segment. I loved the back and forth that Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara did, because, again, I know people are tired of kind of like the Sammy Guevara and Chris Jericho type of stuff, but, at some point we're going to be seeing Chris Jericho versus Sammy Guevara wrestle one another, and that is something I'm really pretty much looking forward to. And honestly, they're doing a slow build for that, and that is probably the best way to do it. I don't think it's the right decision to put that match at all out, because if you really think about it from a creative standpoint, it just doesn't make any sense. But nonetheless, I enjoyed this segment for what it was. I loved the back and forth. I loved the genuine chemistry that Sammy Guevara and Chris Jericho have because, again, Sammy Guevara, say what you want about Sammy Guevara, but he's super talented in the ring. But one thing I will always say about Sammy Guevara is that he really needs to really go out on his own. And I don't want him to just join another faction. Like, I want Sammy Guevara to be on his own. We all thought he was going to do that when he won the TNT title, but look where that got him. He got booed out of the fucking building ever since the relationship with Ty Conti, came out, which honestly, I'd never understood why because, again, a relationship is nobody else's fucking business. But he got booed the hell out of the building, and then the JAS started, and, he kind of leached on Jericho after that. So, honestly, that was kind of dumb. But nonetheless, this was a pretty entertaining segment, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for what it was, and it's going to be very interesting to see what happens next week when it comes to Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara. We got Eddie Kingston and Wheeler Yuta for the New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong Openweight Championship. Of course, Eddie Kingston is the current openweight champion for New Japan Strong. Overall, this wasn't a bad match whatsoever. This actually was a pretty good match. Eddie Kingston is fucking phenomenal. I'm still waiting on an MJF Eddie Kingston feud. That's one of the feuds. Ever since MJF won the AEW World Championship, one of the feuds that I've always wanted to see was a feud with Eddie Kingston. I mean, the back and forth, just in promos and the build-up for that match would be fucking phenomenal. But we're going to have to wait a little bit longer for that. But nonetheless, let's go through this match. Yuta goes for a slap on Kingston. Kingston goes for a chop. Yuta then goes for a DDT on the top, but then Yuta stomps on his arm and bites the hand of Eddie Kingston. Yuta goes for a chop on Kingston, but then Yuta continues to work on the arm. We get a cover and a 1 count. Once we're back on commercial break, Yuta gets taken to the outside by Kingston. Kingston then goes for a tope suicida. Kingston then takes Yuta in the ring, but once we're back in the ring, Kingston is in control. We get repeated strikes by Kingston, but then he ends up hitting an exploder suplex. We then get a cover by Kingston and a near fall. We then get a spinning back fist countered by Kingston, followed by a rolling elbow by Yuta. We then get an enziguri by Yuta, but then we get a German into a bridge by Yuta and a near fall. Yuta goes to the top, but then he hits a flying splash off the top. Kingston ends up going for a Saito suplex after that. We get a cover by Kingston and a near fall. Yuta then goes for the Samoan drop. Then we get a cover by Yuta and a near fall. At this point, Yuta is in control, but then he hits repeated stomps on Kingston. At this point, Kingston is no-selling those stomps and strikes by Wheeler Yuta. He ends up going for a chop. He goes for a second chop and then goes for a third chop, but that third chop ended up getting countered. After that, he drives his elbows onto the arm of Kingston, that being Wheeler Yuta, on his neck. Kingston then is going down, but he finally gets back up. We then get a half-and-half suplex by Eddie Kingston. Yuta. Now, this spot was actually awesome. It was a back and forth by both. So we get a half-and-half suplex by Eddie Kingston. We then get a spinning back fist by Kingston. Yuta immediately gets up, and then we get a second spinning back fist. We get a cover by Kingston, and Kingston retains the NJPW Strong Open Weight Championship. After that, Claudio by himself walks out and holds Wheeler Yuta up and walks off. Meanwhile, you got Eddie Kingston screaming, "Claudio, I want to fight you." You can tell Eddie Kingston still holds a grudge with Claudio Castagnoli. Overall, this was a great match pretty much. Wheeler Yuta looked phenomenal. Wheeler Yuta, ever since joining the Blackpool Combat Club last year, has been nothing but great. But again, one of the things that I wanted this Sunday at All Out was to have Eddie Kingston versus Claudio, but fortunately we're not going to be having that, and we're just going to be having a tag team match. We got Eddie Kingston teaming up with Katsuyori Shibata, taking on Wheeler Yuta and Claudio Castagnoli, which is not a bad match whatsoever, but I personally would have much rather preferred a one-on-one match between Eddie Kingston and Claudio. After that, we got MJF backstage in his locker room after the match at All In. Adam Cole comes in and he congratulates him. And, of course, MJF says, I like you like a brother, but you almost broke my neck multiple times. And, of course, he says, this Mark, Tony Khan, says that there will be a battle royal on Rampage. And there will also be a tournament in order for whoever to face him for the AEW World Championship at Grand Slam. So that is great to see. So we got this Friday on Rampage, we got a battle royal to determine the number one contenders for the ROH Tag Team titles at All Out. Plus, we also got a World Title Eliminator tournament to determine the challenger for the AEW World Championship against MJF at Arthur Ashe Stadium. So we're going to be on the lookout for that. After that, Sammy Guevara is backstage in an interview. Of course, He talks about how Chris Jericho and him are on the same page, but the weasel himself, the asshole, the piece of shit human being, Don Callis, comes in. And he asks, don't you find it challenging dealing with a sociopath like Chris Jericho? You know, he talks about how, yes, I know you and your wife are pregnant. Congratulations. But Sammy immediately interrupts and says, get your hands off of me. Stop talking. Did you just hear what I said? Stop talking. Yes, I have a family. My friends and families are none of your business. So get lost. Interesting. Could Sammy Guevara join the Don Callis family? Honestly, I don't know about that, but we're going to have to wait and see. It's just a really odd pairing, seeing Sammy Guevara and Don Callis together. It's just very weird. Just think about it. It's a weird pairing. I don't know about that, but still. We're going to have to wait and see. We got an Adam Cole segment. Adam Cole coming off of the main event from All In. This was a great segment, probably the best segment of this entire show. Who's ready for story time with Adam Cole, baby? One of the greatest stories that were ever told was this past Sunday. At All In, the greatest event of all time. To everyone that was there and everyone that was watching on pay-per-view, thank you for making this the most special night of my life. Me and MJF became your new Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions, but in the main event, he challenged MJF for the AEW World Championship. But it wasn't quite perfect because he lost, and that hurt. It hurt really bad, and he knows at some point he will get another shot at MJF at his AEW World Championship. Concerning his good friend MJF, he is not in good shape, or in great shape, I should say. He's actually, if you really think about it, he is hurt, and he is hurt really bad. And he knows at some point he will get a shot, or I should say, he's pretty banged up. This Sunday, at All Out, though, MJF will be ready to go. But there's something really important that he needs to talk about. But immediately, you hear somebody screaming, Adam! Adam! That's my little Roderick Strong impersonation. Roderick Strong was never really that good with promos. His strengths were in the ring. But it was Roderick Strong screaming Adam's name like a crazy ex-girlfriend. He comes out, and he comes out with Matt Taven and Mike Bennett, the Kingdom. You care more about the fact that Max's neck is broken than you care about my neck? Is my health not important? And Adam Cole says that is absurd. This isn't the guy that has been his friend for 10 years, teaming with these guys. And then Mike Bennett interrupts. And he's like, no, it's going to tell my story now. It's story time with Mike Bennett. Let's go back to 2010. Ring of Honor, the ECW Arena. And we get a bunch of shut the fuck up chants by the crowd. 21-year-old Adam Cole and 25-year-old Mike Bennett. Jesus Christ, I'm very tired. And you know what happened? They both got one another jobs. We signed on to ROH, and from that point, they were bonded for life. They did everything together. Adam Cole was at his wedding. He hosted a bachelor party. Think about everywhere we went. And yes, Chicago is one of the worst cities to wrestle in. Adam, we picked each other up during our worst, and we celebrated at our best. But he cares too much about what these people think. And he forgot what these guys meant to you. He's talking about the Kingdom and Roderick Strong. Matt Taven tells Adam to shut his mouth because Adam was about to interrupt. This is just who he is. He needed them, the Kingdom, to take over Ring of Honor. But he then jumped ship to the Bullet Club because, of course, that merch money. And then he went on to Florida. And then, of course, he went on to Florida and became NXT champion. He didn't mention NXT by name, but he briefly mentioned his title run in NXT. And what happens is now he comes back here, and you're a changed man. You are a liar, Adam Cole. And he is the same leech that he has always been. And now he latched himself to MJF because he thinks that's the gateway to the AEW World Championship. When you look at pictures of the past, do you ignore the people standing around you? But he thinks he's standing alone because that is the only person he really cares about. Adam says they know for a fact that isn't true. Honest to God, if it really made you feel that way, I am truly sorry, says Adam Cole. What he learned was how important friendship is. They need to accept the fact that MJF is not only his friend, but MJF is his best friend. How is he your best friend after a couple months? That's hilarious. Roger can't accept that. He is entertaining, or he says, I said entertaining. Roger can't accept that. And he is entering the Grand Slam tournament. Roderick Strong entering the Grand Slam tournament. It's going to be very interesting to see these brackets, man. I'm very curious to see what these brackets are like. And then I'm going to do what you couldn't do, says Roderick Strong. And that is beat MJF in the middle of this ring and become the real AEW World Champion with Matt and Mike by my side. Jesus Christ, these fucking yawns. And I'm going to become the AEW World Champion with Matt Taven and Mike Bennett by my side. Adam says that is a horrible idea. His neck isn't in good shape. And, of course, Roderick Strong immediately questions what Adam Cole says. And, he's like, oh, you're not pretending to care about me. Listen to me, Adam. Unlike his soft tag team partner, he doesn't need a roll-up or a diamond ring or a neck that's, 10% to win a match. Bad neck or not, he will break everybody's back and he will win the tournament because he is a wrestling legend. And then he leaves. And that was that great segment with Roderick Strong and Adam Cole. Overall, this was a great, phenomenal segment. I enjoyed this for what it was. The Roderick Strong stuff it's pretty funny. Look, we all know Roderick Strong is not the best when it comes to promos, but he definitely really sold everything here in this whole segment. He's going to enter the AEW Grand Slam tournament for the AEW World Championship. It's going to be very interesting to see what the brackets are and who Roderick Strong is going to be facing in order to advance not only in the semifinals, but also the actual finals. But this is going to be very interesting to see what goes on. Could it be a scenario in which we see Roderick Strong versus MJF for the AEW World Championship at Grand Slam? I don't know. For storyline sake, I think it makes total sense. But at the same time, we're talking about AEW Grand Slam here. I mean, this is no normal Dynamite. This is Arthur Ashe Stadium. And if you really want to sell more tickets for AEW Grand Slam, I don't think MJF versus Roderick Strong is really the right match. But for the storyline's sake, for storyline purposes, this whole thing makes total sense. But I'm talking about it from a business end. I think Roderick Strong and Adam Cole, or Roderick Strong and MJF at Grand Slam, is not really the right main event. That's just me. That's just my opinion. But nonetheless, this was a great segment, and the storyline keeps getting more interesting and interesting and interesting by the week. Because, again, there's a lot of unpredictability in this scenario, and you just do not know who's going to turn heel. Like, 1 minute you have Adam Cole literally teasing a heel turn, but then you have the other minute in which MJF teases a heel turn. You really do not know who's going to turn on who, and that is really the beauty of this whole storyline. We got Chris Statlander, Britt Baker, and Hikaru Shida taking on Emi Sakura, Nyla Rose, and Marina Shafir. Honestly, this was a relatively short match, and a match that I wasn't really interested in whatsoever. I'm not really going to go through everything in this whole match. Statlander clotheslines Nyla to the outside. She goes to the top. She dives on everybody. She sends Shafir into the ring. Ends up hitting the Wednesday Night Fever, and we get a cover, and the babyfaces get the win. But from behind, Ruby Soho comes in and ends up hitting the No Future from behind on Chris Statlander. She then takes the belt away, holding it up, and then leaves it in the ramp. And it's official. We now have Chris Statlander taking on Ruby Soho at All Out. We got a video package of Samoa Joe taking on Shane Taylor. After that, we got Don Callis and Konosuke Takeshita backstage. She shows Kenny, backstage, he shows an x-ray of Kenny's knee and neck and talks about how we need strikes. We need the C3 strike. And, of course, he's showing footage of Konosuke Takeshita's crazy-ass strike. Then he shows the abdominal cavity, and he should hit the Blue Thunder Bomb with that. But we have a backup strategy, the screwdriver. Great stuff. We got the Acclaimed. Of course, Daddy Ass is back, and we get a bunch of Daddy Ass chants. Jesus Christ, this is the third fucking yawn. Good God. I'm talking so much to the point where I'm honestly almost falling asleep. We get a bunch of daddy ass chants by the crowd. He was not only gone, but he was gone for one day. Last Sunday was a really good day. All in, they became Trios champions. Caster says 80,000 witnessed the Acclaimed capture the Trios belts. But they thought it was fitting for this crowd that 1 year ago lifted up the Acclaimed and moved them to the next level, and they wanted to return the favor. They will lift these belts with pride. And there's one way that they wanted to start this title reign, and it's a ribbon cutting ceremony. Caster has a scissor, and then, of course, Billy comes in and he says, "You have a little one. How about we use the big one?" So they use the big one, they cut the ribbon, and they says, "This is a new era in the Trios division." And then, of course, with Billy Gunn at the helm, "Welcome to the House of Ass." I love how he said that. And this is the house where we wear pink, which is why, Billy, if you look at these belts are dull. But we have a surprise. It's custom Trios titles with a pink strap. And the belt actually scissors. And then, of course, they talk about how on Collision they will defend the Trios titles. And let's break these scissors in, throw them up, and scissor me daddy ass. And the segment concludes. Overall, this was a pretty entertaining segment. You gotta love the Acclaimed. The Acclaimed are probably one of the best stories in AEW. I'm not talking about storyline, but like career wise, like it's a great story. But nonetheless, the Acclaimed are your Trios champions, and they got new belts, so that is great to see. We got our main event. We got Orange Cassidy taking on Penta El Zero Miedo for the AEW International Championship. Penta shoves the face of Orange Cassidy. Orange puts his hands in his pockets, but then we get a series of arm drags by Orange Cassidy. After that, we get a series of back and forth strikes by both men. Both men get up. Orange tries to go for his hands in his pockets, but Penta does not let him. Orange then later takes him down, but then he puts his hands in his pockets once again. Cassidy ends up going for an arm drag with his hands in his pockets. Then we get a tope by Orange, but then Penta catches him and he picks him up and throws him on the top. It looked like shoulder first onto the barricade, which looked absolutely fucking brutal. Once they're back in commercial break, Orange is on the top, or I should say Orange ends up going for a tope. Then, of course, he goes on top of the steel steps, but then he drops down, landing into a thrust kick. After that, Penta is in the ring. He ends up hitting a somersault. Then he takes Orange back into the ring. We get a leg drop by Penta. Orange goes for the stunt dog millionaire, but then we get a tornado DDT by Orange. Orange goes to the top, but then Penta hits a kick. He then hits a kick onto the midsection of Cassidy, but then Orange gets caught into the backstabber. We get a cover and a near fall. Once we're back in commercial break, we get a thrust kick by Orange. Penta goes for the sling blade, but then Penta goes for the cover, and we get a near fall. After that, Penta targets the arm of Orange, but then Orange goes for the amazing strikes, those casual strikes, toying with Penta El Zero Miedo. But then after that, Orange Cassidy goes for the greatest move in the history of professional wrestling. Shout out to Petey Williams, the amazing Canadian Destroyer. Don West right now would be marking out like a motherfucker. After that, Penta comes back, gets up on his feet, and hits another Canadian Destroyer. Yeah. And then after that, Cassidy comes back and hits another Canadian Destroyer. Holy fucking shit. After that, Penta goes for the Made in Japan. We get a cover into near fall. Orange catches Penta with, what was it, a pin? I completely forgot. My notes got fucked up over here. We get a cover into near fall. We get a thrust kick by Penta on the hand of Cassidy. We get repeated stomps on Cassidy by Penta. We then get a thrust kick on the apron. Cassidy counters the Fear Factor attempt, but then Penta fights back and he ends up hitting the Fear Factor on the apron. We get a cover by Penta, but then Cassidy, gets his hand on the ropes. Penta then targets and takes out the arm of Cassidy, and then he ends up hitting the Fear Factor. But then we get a cover by Penta and a kick out, which the crowd is just absolutely shocked. After that, Cassidy goes for the roll-up, and he ends up getting the win and retains the AEW International Championship. After that, after the match, he gets the microphone, he sits in a chair, and he cuts a very passionate promo. He usually doesn't like to talk, but here we are. He is so tired. His body hurts, and every single time he has a title defense, the backpack gets even heavier. But you know what? He is here. He is wrestling, defending the international title because this title means everything to him. This is what AEW is. It's about putting a person that was told, you will never do anything. You are too short. You are too different. But now he is the champion. And he will continue to defend his championship for as long as he wants. And there is nothing anyone can do to take it from him. Jon Moxley, you better bring more than a fork because he's always, and he always will be, the international champion. Because he is freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy, and he does not have a catchphrase. That is actually a very good catchphrase. But then Moxley comes out, he shoves the face of Cassidy, Orange hits a right hand, both men go face to face, head to head, and the show ends. Overall thoughts on this match. This match was fucking awesome. I really, really, really enjoyed this match more than I thought I was. I mean, when they first announced this match, you knew this match was going to hit. But I didn't know I was going to hit that damn good. Cassidy looks great. Penta was a fucking killer out there, man. Those Canadian Destroyer back and forth spots were off the charts. I really enjoyed this match for what it was. One of the best highlights in AEW was the way that they've been treating Orange Cassidy. Not only treating Orange Cassidy, but also treating the International Championship. I've always talked about how the TNT Championship is literally in shambles right now. Now, take that back. It's not really in shambles now because, of course, Christian has the title, even though he's not the official champion, but he's doing good things with that belt. But the International title is AEW's true mid-card championship, and Orange Cassidy has done a great job at representing that. But we have Orange Cassidy versus Jon Moxley at All Out. I don't want to be that type of guy, but I think we're looking at the end of Orange Cassidy's international title run because we're talking about Jon Moxley over here. Jon Moxley, if you really think about it, could beat the shit out of somebody and immediately take their title away from. He's the guy that just screams as someone that can easily take your title away from. So it's going to be very interesting to see what would happen at All Out, but it's official. We're going to be getting Orange Cassidy versus Jon Moxley at All Out. But yeah, that was my AEW Dynamite review from August 30th, 2023. We definitely talked about a lot of things right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast. Of course, All Out is this Sunday. I'm not really excited for All Out, to be quite honest with you, mainly because of the fact that the show barely had any build, but also it just feels quite lackluster, especially with the card that they have announced for, and you're going to have to pay $50 fucking for it. But those are my thoughts on All Out. Overall thoughts on Dynamite itself. I thought Dynamite was great, and they really tried to do everything that they could for you to convince you to buy the pay-per-view this Sunday. So those are my thoughts on AEW Dynamite. And that was the AEW Dynamite review, of course, right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications. I mean, look out for more videos right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And, as the freaking referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. And as always, it is Flamin' Ricky DeRays, signing out. I'll see you guys later. Peace.